I married Eleanor on the very same day her true love was getting married next door. Just as we were about to exchange rings, the man himself stormed into our ceremony. Red-eyed and shaking, he announced that the only woman he'd ever loved was Eleanor, and that he couldn't go through with marrying the fiancé waiting for him, the one battling a terminal illness. Eleanor didn't even look at me. She pulled her hand from mine and ran after him. I was left standing there, humiliated, while my mother was so angry she ended up in the hospital. Later, the abandoned bride and I caught each other's eyes for a moment. I asked quietly, "Do you want to switch grooms?" 3 years passed before Eleanor came back. She was crying, saying she regretted everything. But I scooped up both kids from the back seat, one in each arm. I stepped aside and said, "Excuse me, I'm in a hurry to pick up my wife from work." With Cyrus in one arm and Chloe in the other, I turned to close the car door and stopped cold. Standing a few feet away was someone I never expected to run into again. Eleanor, my ex-fiancée, the woman who ditched me at our own wedding 3 years ago and ran off with her true love. Balancing both kids against my chest, I kept my voice polite. "Excuse me, I'm in a hurry." Eleanor's expression darkened instantly. Instead of stepping aside, she blocked my path, her voice sharp and accusing. "Who are these kids?" I shut the door with a quick kick, not planning to engage. But Chloe looped her arms around my neck and asked, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Daddy, why is this lady so mean?" Eleanor's face tightened even more. "Why is she calling you daddy?" She sounded almost frantic. "I was only gone for 3 years. How could you already have children? Did you have kids with someone else the second I left?" I kept my tone even. "What did you expect, that I'd stay loyal to you forever?" Eleanor and I had grown up together. Our families had arranged the engagement when we were kids, and I'd always known she had feelings for someone else. I'd tried to call off the engagement more than once, but she refused every time, swearing she loved me and wanted to marry me. I chose to believe her until the wedding day. Her true love dropped to his knees in front of her, sobbing as if he'd break apart. She panicked right there at the altar. Then she ditched the ceremony, still wearing her gown, and ran off with him. The fallout was humiliating. My parents shared the shame. My mother even fell ill from the stress and ended up in the hospital. People who'd always resented me suddenly had ammunition, whispering behind my back that I'd been a backup plan, a pathetic fool. I'd hated Eleanor for a long time after that, and I never thought I'd face her again 3 years later. She clearly hadn't expected me, usually the polite, mild one, to cut her down so bluntly. For a moment, she just stared. I shifted the twins and tried to walk past her, but she grabbed my arm. "Ethan, can we talk?" I was about to refuse her when my phone buzzed in my pocket. "That's Mommy calling." Cyrus fished it out and put it on speaker. My wife's cool, steady voice filled the air. "Ethan, why aren't you here yet?" Before I came, I had told my wife Gemma that I'd be picking her up with the kids. Luckily, her call arrived just in time to save me from an awkward situation. That night before bedtime, I read stories to our twins. Chloe, her wide, innocent eyes fixed on me, asked, "Daddy, does that strange lady like you?" Before I could answer, Cyrus jumped in from the side. "Of course she does. Daddy's so handsome." I felt my cheeks heat up and quickly told them not to tell their mother about today. We'd had 3 years of a happy marriage. I didn't want to stir up misunderstandings. After tucking the twins in, I returned to the master bedroom. Gemma was already lying on the bed with her back to me. I turned off the main light, and as soon as I slipped beside her, she rolled over and pinned me gently. "Ethan, I didn't know you were such a hit. Women actually hit on you in public? How do you know that?" I asked, stunned. She hummed softly and pinched my cheek. "Our kids told me everything before even stepping inside." "Those traitors," I muttered. Gemma's eyes widened. "And you feel sorry for her?" I sighed. "It's Eleanor." Since she already knew, I had no reason to hide it. Jealousy flared in Gemma. "She heartlessly abandoned you back then. Bet she's regretting it now." She pinched my face harder. "Ethan, if I ever find out you're tangled up with her again, you're dead." In the soft glow of the lamp, Gemma looked strikingly beautiful. I felt a rush of desire, wrapped my arms around her waist and pressed her against me. "My heart is only yours. How could I ever get tangled up with another woman?" I spent the rest of the night proving that with every touch and every kiss. With her warm, soft body in my arms, the idea of caring about a woman who had abandoned me seemed ridiculous. But unfortunately, that woman refused to stay away. Eleanor kept reaching out, trying to meet, and I ignored her every time. Finally, she had our class president organize a reunion as an excuse to get me to come. When the class president called, I had just dropped Cyrus and Chloe off at preschool. It had been a while since I saw any old classmates, and the venue happened to be our hotel. I decided to go. Since we were all friends, I didn't bother dressing up. I only wore a t-shirt and shorts. But the moment I stepped into the room, my heart sank. Eleanor was there with her true love, Lucas Flynn. Oh right, they were my college classmates as well. If I had known they'd be there, I would have at least tried to look presentable. I casually grabbed a chair and sat down. Before I could even settle in, Lucas sneered. "Well, look who it is. Ethan, why are you dressed like that? Isn't your family loaded?" A series of snide remarks. I ignored him. He'd always been like that. I never understood what Eleanor saw in him. Eleanor and I had grown up in the same schools. In college, she chose literature. I went into business. I assumed we'd finish school and get married. Then Lucas appeared. He was in her literature class. Handsome, charming, always ready with a poem. He made girls swoon. In a female-heavy program, he was a rare catch. But he never committed, never dated, always kept girls guessing. He took what he wanted, played with hearts, and never gave an answer. Some even said he'd gotten a girl pregnant. True or not, who knew? I thought Eleanor would keep her distance from a jerk like him. But no, she had quietly loved him for years, crowning him her one and only. On our wedding day, Lucas crashed the ceremony, crying about finally understanding his heart. He claimed he loved Eleanor, not his terminally ill fiancée. We were in the middle of exchanging rings. I grabbed Eleanor's hand tightly and whispered, "Don't leave me. With all our families and friends here, let's deal with this after the ceremony, just for appearances." But Eleanor had always been spoiled. She didn't care. She tossed aside the rings. "I'm sorry. I can't marry you. I love Lucas." She yanked her hand from mine and linked arms with him, still wearing her pristine white gown, and walked right out of our wedding. I would never forget that back view. Not Not out of longing, it was out of shame. I was one of Sunnydale's wealthiest young heirs, but I had been abandoned by my childhood sweetheart on my own wedding day. How could anyone forget such humiliation? Seeing that I ignored them, Eleanor tapped Lucas on the arm. Lucas, enough. Ethan's had a rough time. I heard his family kicked him out. He doesn't even have a job right now. That's why he looks a little shabby. You can't mock him for that. I froze, unsure where she had heard such nonsense. Then it hit me. Back at my wedding, Eleanor had caused such a scene that my mother's heart condition flared up, landing her in the hospital. My father, furious, had kicked me out of the house, telling me to go reflect on my mistakes and stop being a burden. He had even forced me out of the family business, insisting I learn to survive on my own. I had to prove myself before I could think of inheriting anything. Yeah, I had been down and out. So that's how it was. Lucas sneered, his lips curling in smug satisfaction. He grabbed a bottle of fine red wine from the table, uncorked it, and poured himself a glass. The rich aroma filled the room. I had a friend bring this all the way from Etheria's vineyard. Excellent wine. Everyone should try it, he said, deliberately looking at me. Ethan, you should taste it too. I guess it's been years since you've had anything this good, right? A certain someone just wouldn't get it. I ignored him, and he still shoved his face in my way, begging to be slapped. I tilted my head and muttered a few words to the server. He nodded immediately and left the room with a respectful bow. This hotel was mine. Well, technically, it had been a gift from my wife, Gemma. Back then, my wedding had been a chaotic mess, mirrored by a similar spectacle in the hall next door. But that one had been orchestrated by Gemma. Lucas had pursued her relentlessly, and they were set to marry. But Gemma had always suspected he was only after her money. So, before the wedding, she told him she had a terminal illness and that her days were numbered. She said she would leave only a portion of her estate to her parents and donate the rest. Lucas instantly regretted everything. At the last minute, he ran off to our wedding, performing some melodramatic act and whisking Eleanor away. After they left, I ran into Gemma, still in her wedding dress next door. On a whim, I asked her, "Do you want to switch grooms?" And just like that, Gemma and I had a whirlwind wedding. Life after that was blissfully normal. She gave me twins soon after. When she learned my father had thrown me out, she handed over this hotel for me to manage. "This is a wedding gift," she said. "If you lose money on it, I'll kick you out myself." Luckily, my studies in business management had paid off. In just 3 years, I had not only kept the hotel profitable, but also expanded with several branches. Gemma was pleased, and now someone had the audacity to swagger into my hotel and act like they owned the place. He was about to learn the cost of that arrogance. The door clicked, and a server in white gloves approached, carefully holding a bottle of wine. "Boss, here's the 82 Lafitte you requested."
The class president, who had been listening to Lucas brag, sputtered. "Wait, boss, did he just call you boss, Ethan?" I didn't answer. I simply took the bottle from the server, letting the gold emblem on the custom leather sleeve catch the light. Lucas's face turned an ugly shade of crimson, his hand freezing halfway through swirling his Etheria wine. "Boss," Eleanor scoffed, though her voice lacked conviction. She stepped forward, looking between me and the server. "Ethan, stop lying to yourself. My parents told me your dad cut you off completely. You don't own this hotel, you're probably just a line cook here or something." "I don't need to lie, Eleanor," I said calmly, motioning for the server to pop the cork. "This hotel is part of the Hayes Vane Group, my group." Lucas forced a loud, booming laugh, desperately trying to reclaim the room. "Please, everyone knows the Hayes family owns this place. Gemma Hayes, the woman I was supposed to marry before I saved Eleanor from you, is the heiress. You're just using your cheap employee discount to play big shot." Room went dead silent as the doors swung open again. This time it wasn't a server. Gemma walked in, draped in a sharp, tailored white pantsuit, her dark hair cascading over her shoulders. Beside her, 3 tall men in black suits carried heavy leather briefcases. The air in the room temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. "Saved her." Gemma's voice cut through the private room like a glass blade. She didn't even glance at Lucas, walking straight to my side and laying a warm, slender hand on my shoulder. "Lucas Flynn, still peddling fairy tales, I see," Eleanor gasped, taking a sharp step back. "Gemma, but you were dying. 3 years ago you had a terminal illness." Gemma let out a dry, melodic laugh. "A terminal illness? No, my dear. I had a terminal case of disgust for a gold digger, so I staged a little test." And Lucas swallowed it whole. Lucas stood up so fast his chair screeched against the marble floor. "What? I wanted to see if you loved me or my money," Gemma continued, her eyes cold as ice. "The moment I said the inheritance was going to charity, you sprinted next door to Eleanor. You didn't run to your true love. You ran away from a broke woman." Room exploded into low, shocked whispers. Lucas looked like he'd been slapped, his posture shrinking instantly. Eleanor whipped her head toward him, her lips trembling. "Lucas, is that true? You told me you left her because you couldn't live without me." "He left her because he thought she was dying penniless," I added, pouring a splash of the 82 Lafite into my glass. "And he came to you because he thought your family would cushion his fall." Lucas turned on me, his eyes wild with desperation. "You're lying, you two planned this. Eleanor, don't listen to them." "Silence," Gemma snapped. She motioned to the men in suits behind her. "I'm not here for a high school drama, Lucas. I'm here as the chairwoman of Hayes Enterprise. 5 minutes ago, my legal team filed a formal audit against Flynn Logistics." Lucas blanched. "What does my company have to do with this?" "Your company?" Gemma smiled, stepping closer to him until he was forced to lean back against the dining table. 3 years ago, when you took Eleanor abroad, you needed capital to launch your firm. You took out a $15 million line of credit from Hayes Capital, using Eleanor's family estate as collateral. Did you tell her that?" Eleanor's head snapped toward Lucas. "You did what?" "It was an investment, Ellie, for our future." Lucas panicked, sweat breaking out on his forehead. "An investment that has failed," Gemma said smoothly. "You haven't made a payment in 6 months. As of 3 o'clock today, Hayes Enterprise recalled the loan." Effective immediately, we are seizing all assets tied to Flynn Logistics and initiating foreclosure on the estate. Elena screamed, grabbing Lucas's lapels. Lucas, tell her she's wrong. My parents live in that house. They won't for much longer, Gemma said softly. Unless, of course, the debt is settled in full by midnight. You can't do this, Lucas roared, lunging forward, but one of Gemma's bodyguards casually stepped into his path, blocking him with an iron chest. Ethan. Speak to your wife, we were classmates, you can't destroy us over a grudge. I took a slow sip of the wine, setting the glass down with a soft clink. It's not a grudge, Lucas, it's just business, I said. You broke a contract just like you did 3 years ago. I stood up, adjusting my plain t-shirt. Class president put tonight's dinner on my personal tab. Everyone enjoy the wine. As for you two, I believe you have a lawyer to call. The next morning, the local business headlines were dominated by one story. Flynn Logistics collapse imminent, Hayes Enterprise recalls millions. I was sitting in my office at the hotel reviewing the monthly financial reports when my door burst open. Security was right behind her, but I waved them off. Elena stood in the doorway. She wasn't wearing the glamorous designer clothes she loved so much. Her eyes were swollen, her hair unkempt, and she was clutching a thick folder to her chest. Ethan. Please, she sobbed, collapsing into the chair across from my desk. You have to help me, Lucas. He lied about everything. I know, I said, not looking up from my tablet. No, you don't understand. She slid the folder toward me. I found these in his briefcase last night. He didn't just lose the money and business. He's been gambling. He owes millions to offshore casinos, and he used my family's name to sign for the debts. My father had a heart attack this morning when the bank served the eviction notice. He's in the ICU. I paused, looking at her finally. Your father is in the hospital. Yes, she reached across the desk, trying to grab my hand, but I pulled away. Ethan, my mom is hysterical. We have nowhere to go. Lucas locked himself in his apartment and won't answer my calls. I begged him to sell his cars, his watches, anything, and he hit me. She pulled down her collar, revealing a faint red mark on her shoulder. 3 years ago, seeing Elena cry would have ripped my heart out. I would have burned the world down to make her smile. But as I looked at her now, all I felt was a profound, empty coldness. Where was this concern for family when my mother landed in the hospital? I asked quietly. Elena froze, her hand hovering in the air. When you ran out of that chapel, I continued, leaning back, my mother collapsed. She spent 2 weeks in cardiac care because of the shame and stress you brought to our family. You didn't call, you didn't check on her, you were in Paris with Lucas. I was young, I was confused. You were 24, Elena, I corrected her. You made a choice, you chose Lucas, now you get to live with him. By late afternoon, the pressure on Lucas had reached a boiling point. Abandoned by his investors and facing criminal fraud charges for using falsified signatures on the Hayes loan, he did what any coward would do. He tried to flee. Gemma and I were at the private airport hangar, supervising the arrival of a new shipment of hotel supplies, when a black sedan came tearing across the tarmac, screeching to a halt near a small private charter jet. Lucas stumbled out, carrying 2 heavy duffel bags. But before he could reach the airstrip steps, 2 police cruisers pulled up, sirens blaring, cutting off his escape. Behind them came a taxi. Elena stepped out, her face pale, followed by my father and 2 burly men from the corporate enforcement team. Lucas, Elena shrieked, running toward him. You bastard, you were taking my mother's jewelry and leaving the country. Lucas turned on her like a trapped animal, throwing one of the duffel bags at her feet. Get away from me, Elena. This is all your fault, my fault. If you hadn't dragged me back to this damn city to show off to Ethan, none of this would have happened. Lucas yelled, his face twisted in rage. You wanted to rub your true love in his face, you wanted him to beg for you back, you ruined everything. I walked forward slowly, Gemma beside me, her hand laced through mine. He's right about one thing, Elena, I said, my voice echoing in the vast hangar. You didn't come back because you regretted hurting me. You came back because you wanted to see if I was still waiting like a fool. You wanted the satisfaction of knowing you still owned me. Elena stared at me, tears streaming down her face, unable to deny it. The police officers stepped in, grabbing Lucas by his arms and forcing him to his knees. Lucas Flynn, you are under arrest for corporate fraud, grand larceny and bank forgery. Ethan, Gemma, please. Lucas screamed as the handcuffs clicked shut around his wrists. Work something out. I'll give you the company, I'll give you everything. You don't have anything to give, Lucas, Gemma said coldly, except 4 to 6 years of your life. As the police pulled Lucas into the back of the cruiser, Elena stood alone on the pavement. Her family's fortune was gone, her reputation was destroyed, and the man she had ruined her life for was going to prison in handcuffs. She turned to me, her voice a fragile whisper. Ethan, what am I supposed to do now? We grew up together. You loved me for 10 years, doesn't that count for anything? I looked at her, truly looking at her for the last time. I loved the girl I grew up with, I said softly. But that girl died the moment she dropped her rings on the chapel floor and walked out. The woman standing here today is a stranger. My father stepped up beside me, placing a heavy hand on my shoulder. He looked at Elena with deep disappointment. Your parents and I were friends for 30 years, Elena. For their sake, I won't press charges for your part in the loan fraud, but the estate belongs to Hayes Vane now. You have until tomorrow to pack your things. Elena collapsed onto her knees right there on the tarmac, sobbing uncontrollably, burying her face in her hands. I didn't step forward to comfort her. I didn't feel joy, nor did I feel anger. I only felt peace. I turned my back on her weeping frame, taking Gemma's hand in mine. Let's go home, I said quietly. Daddy, a loud shout echoed from the edge of the hangar. Cyrus and Chloe came running out from our driver's car, their little shoes squeaking against the polished concrete. Chloe threw herself into my arms while Cyrus hugged Gemma's leg. Mommy, Daddy, look what we drew at preschool. Chloe yelled, shoving a brightly coloured piece of paper into my face. I scooped both of them up into my arms, just like I had done a few days ago, holding my whole world close to my chest. Gemma laughed, leaning over to kiss my cheek. Is the mean lady still crying? Cyrus asked, peeking over my shoulder toward the tarmac. She's just learning a lesson, buddy, I murmured, turning the kids away from the past. Come on, let me take you guys out for ice cream. 6 months later, the sunset over the Sunnydale coastline was painted in brilliant shades of gold and deep violet. From the balcony of our oceanfront home, I could hear the rhythmic crashing of the waves against the shore, punctuated by the high-pitched giggles of Cyrus and Chloe chasing a golden retriever through the grass below. I felt a pair of warm arms slide around my waist from behind. Gemma rested her chin on my shoulder, breathing in the cool evening air with me. What are you thinking about? She asked softly. About how close I came to ruining my own life, I admitted, turning in her arms to face her. If Lucas hadn't crashed that wedding, if you hadn't been standing in that hallway next door, I might have ended up stuck in a nightmare. Gemma smiled, her thumb tracing my jawline. Fate has a funny way of sorting trash from treasure, Ethan. Lucas is serving 4 years at the state penitentiary. Eleanor moved out of state last month to work as an entry-level clerk. Her family had to sell off everything to clear their remaining legal fees. Do you ever feel bad for them? I asked gently. People who tried to destroy us out of pure arrogance. Gemma shook her head, her eyes flashing with that fierce, protective light I loved so much. Not for a single second. They made their bed, they get to sleep in it. She leaned in, pressing her lips to mine in a slow, deep kiss that tasted like sweet wine and home. When she pulled back, she had a small, mischievous glint in her eyes. Speaking of beds, she whispered, my parents agreed to keep the twins for the entire weekend. I raised an eyebrow, a smile tugging at the corners of my mouth. Oh, and what do you have planned, Mrs. Vane? Well, she said, pulling me toward the master bedroom, I think it's time you prove to me again, without any interruptions, that your heart really is only mine. I laughed, wrapping my arm around her waist and pulling her tight against me as the balcony doors closed out the night. The past was burned to ashes, but the life we had built together was just beginning.